All right, welcome back. It is still VOP this morning, right here on Voice of the People Television. Well, let's quickly get into the second conversation. Interestingly, the leadership of the indigenous people of Biafra criticized the facilitators of the Igbo Must Go campaign in the southeast, calling for a referendum for the Igbo to exit Nigeria. IPOB mocked the authorities in the southwest, I beg your pardon, for not taking the campaign seriously and claimed high-profile individuals in Lagos State and the federal government were sponsoring it. IPOB's Director of Media and Publicity, Ima Powerful, stated that despite the planned Igbo Must Go protest from August 20 to 30th, 2024, the Igbos are ready to leave via a referendum and will not be intimidated. Well, he accused the Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, of hypocritically condemning the protest while profiling and targeting Igbo businesses. Powerful emphasized that the Igbos are prepared to exit Nigeria peacefully, but warned of potential hostility if forced to leave violently. He concluded that the Igbos are undeterred by threats and have resolved to leave Nigeria. Well, we have with us virtually Mr. Chukwuma Okoro, who is a public affairs analyst and a journalist. And I'm hoping that Mr. Olufemi Lawson is also joined already virtually. He is the Executive Director, Center for Public Accountability, and that's a CPA. Well, I'm going to come to you, Mr. Olufemi Lawson. Let's also state this, that the President, during his statement, had also clamped down on that statement. And of course, that includes the Lagos State Governor, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who have also made statements as regarding that particular campaign, disassociating themselves from all of that. And of course, disassociating the state and of course Nigeria as a country from that statement. But of course, you would expect such reactions at this time from the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB state. Well, I call them, they're not really state actors, but then the spokesperson, yes, Ima Powerful, making that statement. But then this is my question. What is the implication of these statements as regarding the economic development that this group of people bring to the nation, Nigeria?
Thank you. Even though some of us do not want to take seriously, that statement, especially when you look at where it came from, but that nonetheless, our previous lessons have taught us that we cannot just overlook, such careless statements and assume that we should move on without addressing it. And I don't think what the government has done, the federal government and Lagos State government, is enough to address that very, terrible, and insensitive, call for the Igbo people to leave this part of this country. That should have also been followed up with very severe, and serious disciplinary measures, including prosecution for such person who has made a call that not only threatens the life of a group of people, but also threatens national security. Because if anything happens to the Igbo people in this part of the country, there would likely be, a reprisal on other tribes too in other parts of the country, including the southeast where they also live. How do you just wake up from the corner of your bedroom and begin to make such very careless and irrational statement? So for me, it's condemnable, but I think the government has not done enough to actually address that issue as it should.
Mr. Lawson, this is not the first time particular people are calling for Igbos to leave. For example, in 2018, there was a call and even a mandate on the 1st of October for Igbos to vacate Kano State. And we also had some people in Nigeria also call for even I think just last month that a cleric was calling for the death of the First Lady of Nigeria. Why do you think that, stiffer penalties have not really been taking on people who are making such declaration or statements in Nigeria?
Why we have continued to have such characters, making such kind of statement till date, till the recent one, is because we have not been able as a country to deal with perpetrators, to deal with people who instigate violence under the guise of their ethnic bias.
So you have the opinion that we are running a separated democracy, or are we running a system of government that is not really for everyone?
No, it should be for everyone. But even in the best of democracies, there will always be characters who threatens the stability of the state. It is not the duty of the state to impose sanction on those characters and let every other person know that he cannot continue to make such careless statement and get away with it. It has gotten to the point that, just like you mentioned, that even a whole wife of the president has been threatened because of her religious bias, by one unknown person from somewhere. So these are the issues. But once we begin to criminalize such behavior and begin to let perpetrators pay dearly for it, we may wake up tomorrow and find another drunken person calling for this kind of making this kind of careless call, rather, and we'll also get away with it.
Interesting. Now, Mr. Chukwuma, I'm going to come to you almost immediately. As it stands, it's been reported by media at this point that the southeastern states did not fully participate in this protest. And of course, the reason is not far-fetched. They've been told not to get involved, so it doesn't look like that ethnic group is trying to topple the government by any kind of means. But then, looking at this statement, what do you make of it as a person, particularly knowing fully well that Nigeria still battles with so much insecurity? And then it looks more like some persons are trying to play the ethnic card to not particularly looking at the very reason why insecurity is still at the rise.
See, David, this whole issue of Igbo must go, or the call for Igbos to exit Lagos, I don't even know where it is coming from. I don't know where it's coming from. What I mean by I don't know where it's coming from is I don't know the relationship between the protest organized by Nigerians and the call for Igbos to exit Lagos. Where is it coming from? I've said it here before, I've said it elsewhere. The Igbos have been protesting against bad governance for more than 10 years. What is IPOB all about? IPOB is all about we have been marginalized, we have been oppressed, we have been victimized. So give us opportunity. I think you mute Mr. Lawson. Yes. The Igbos have been protesting for a very long time. By 2013, Nnamdi Kanu was not talking about give us Biafra. His agitation was not to create a sovereign state of Biafra. Nnamdi Kanu's agitation was, what do we do to make this country better? What do we do? Let's dialogue. Let's talk to ourselves. The federating units, let's talk to ourselves. That was his platform. That was what he was saying. It was when Buhari came and started implementing nepotistic sectional policies against the Southeast that Nnamdi now said, oh, no, we can't take this anymore. So the whole issue of Igbo Mosque, I don't know where it's coming from. But I'm a bit worried, like Mr. Lawson did express, that the president and the governor were not too forceful. They were not assertive in condemning it, and they need to go beyond what they have done. Okay. They need to have, somebody needs to be prosecuted. Okay. They need to get to the root of the matter. You know why I say this? Yes. You know why I say this? It took Sanwo-Olu 5 days to react to that tweet from Lagospedia. Yeah. Now, and Igbos are relying on the history of the past. During the last election, the 2023 general election, Bayo Ononuga, as a spokesperson of the APC, made very harmful hate speeches against the Igbos. He said, this is the last time that the Igbos will interfere in the politics of Lagos. in 2027, we don't want to see the Igbos interfere in the politics of Lagos. This man was not censored by the APC.
Okay. This
man turned out to become the spokesperson of the president. This man last week gaslighted P2B and IPOB and reduced the planning, the organization of the protest to IPOB and P2B. And in a country like this, his career has not been damaged. We had one Adeyinka grandson, like 2 or 3 years ago, who also raised this issue of Igbo must go. He made videos. I don't know where he made those videos from, whether in Lagos or in the UK. Do you know that Nigeria didn't do anything, but this young man was sentenced to 4.5 years imprisonment in the UK for doing what? For racially profiling the Igbo Southeast. And the UK said he has the tendency to spark ethnic tension in the Southeast. But this young man went free in Nigeria, but he was sentenced in the UK. So it speaks to the larger context of the conspiracy.
Okay.
Mr. Chukwuma, why do you think we're having this call, Igbo must go now, in some part of this country, Nigeria?
Fina, I also told you that I don't know where it is coming from. Why?
But now some people are of the opinion that if this call happened to have come from the Southeast, for example, those who are waving the Russian flag, and they have the opinion that Russia should come, that they need help, if that actually has happened in the Southeast, what do you think would have actually been the outcome of that singular event up until now?
Unleashed mayhem on the people that are waving the flags. IPOB, they don't carry arms. What do they carry? They just carry the Biafran flag. Okay. They just carry Biafran flag, and they are more than by security agencies. They do all sorts of military engagements in the Southeast. They say operation this, operation that, operation this, operation that, and kill innocent people, armless people who just carry flags. Right. But back there in the north, we have terrorists who carry guns, kill Nigerians, kill our security men, destroy police stations, burn down security vehicles of militaries, clean up, ethnic cleansing, clean up a whole lot of ethnic people. Yet, these people are arrested. And what do we get? They are reintegrated into the commanding heights of the nation's economy.
All right, then. Let me.
That is what will have happened.
Okay, let me go back to Olufemi Lawson now, but I would like your response to my question now, Mr. Okoro. So please, I would like to come back to you on this one, but let me have Olufemi's take on this. Now, let's go back in history. First off, let's go back in history. In 1983, we had the Ghana must go in Nigeria, the Shagari era, and everything that happened. I'm not going to go too deep into that one. Now, very recent history. Obariwan Akiolu of Lagos in 2015 did say that Igbos that refuse to vote for Ambode will be thrown into the lagoon. If you recall, that statement was made. APC came out to dissociate itself from the Oba's statement, but no other, nothing was done to the Oba. He wasn't really called to order. In 2022, Senator Oluremi Tinubu did say, I'm going to pick her quote now from one of the papers. I hope I can get to it very quickly. She's quoted as saying that Igbos in Lagos were proving difficult despite the love shown to them. And we will entreat all the deities in Lagos against Igbos if they continue to prove difficult. That's Senator Oluremi Tinubu, the president's wife. Now, you started by saying that people like you would want to disregard Lagospedia, the statement, but isn't that speaking deep into the mindset of political office holders, especially from this part of the country? Should the Igbos in Lagos be fearful? Should they be worried? Should they decide to defend themselves at this time, seeing that whoever made that tweet has still not been brought to book? And if nothing is done, the call for
chasing Igbos out of Lagos might actually happen.
You see, for me, I haven't lived virtually all my life, in Lagos, and I haven't been deeply involved beyond politics in other, strata of the Lagos society, particularly the Southwest. I want to say that it is only the very naive and unintelligent people, most times, that will want to assume that the Igbo population in Lagos are so insignificant that you can use a tweet to send out of Lagos or the Southwest. This is a group of people who have not only become entrenched in terms of population, but in terms of economy, in terms of assets, and then whatever you may call it, that make up a state. And that is why at no time will any governor or genuine leader support any call for the Igbo people to leave Lagos or any part of the Southwest. Igbo people have become almost like the lifeline of the economy of this.
Well, the government may not be supporting, but are there measures being put in place to ensure that whoever is perpetrating this?
That's my concern. We have not been dealing with this issue the way it should. We just most times consider them as social media statement, careless statement, and we just move on, and the next person is waiting to make a similar statement. So for me, I think there must be a categorical action.
Okay.
And I think for those of us in the media and the civil society also, I think it is now the time for us to compel government, either by pushing for a law or other measures, to compel government to criminalize such actions that threatens the life of a group of people, that threatens national security, as the case is, because it's not just going to be something that will affect the people alone eventually.
Okay.
But anybody could be a victim if such hostilities are unleashed on the state.
Right.
I think we must now, as civil society, as media, begin to demand for, because most times government don't just wake up and take actions. We must now begin to demand for actions. Demand for the
unfortunately, we are pressed for time. We are pressed for time, and I would like to get Mr. Okoro's response as well. But now, Mr. Okoro, you do recall that just before the end of governance hunger started, a young man in the northern part of Nigeria made a tweet calling for people to come out and protest, and he was arrested from his house, taken away or locked up. That was taken seriously. But here we are. Statements like this are not taken seriously. What does this portend, really? But anyway, you had the question I asked earlier. If you want to respond as a historian, let's hear you.
Moses, it's so I did say something about the government not being very assertive, in dealing with these issues, and it becomes worrisome when you look back in history. That was how the Holocaust started. In fact, it took a very long time, from identification, from profiling, from suppression, and all of that, and unfortunately, the Jews, even when they were headed into the gas chamber, they didn't know. They didn't know it could happen to them. At the end of the day, Hitler ended up killing like 6 million people. It was things like this that the last genocide in Rwanda.
In Rwanda?
So far,
I was going to come to that. Yes.
The Rwandan genocide between the Tutsis and the Hutsis. The Tutsis didn't take it serious. And I will ask everybody, every living person in this country, to go back and watch Hotel Rwanda. That movie is very instructive.
Right. Oh, yeah.
You can download it on FX movies. It's there.
Oh, you're not encouraging piracy, please. But just go ahead.
Okay, sorry, I didn't know that that's piracy. Yeah. But like Mr. Olufemi said about the government, taking the government into action. I understand that there was a law that was passed against hate speech during the Buhari administration. On top of my head, I can't remember exactly the act, but there is. So probably what we should do is to now fish it out and let people understand that, look, there is a law against hate speech. I keep saying I don't know where this is coming from. The closest friends that I have are Yoruba people. I schooled in the University of Lagos. I worked in Lagos. I did my youth service in Lagos. I lived for more than 20 years in Lagos. Moses, if you are a married man and you let other married men into your bedroom, it shows you the level of closeness. I have people from Lagos who I let into my bedroom in my absence. We are very close. I don't know where this is coming from. And with all sense of modesty, the average Westerner doesn't travel outside the West. They always revolve around the West and probably to the Middle Belt and the North. Moses, Mr. Olufemi, there are tribal Yoruba communities in the Southeast.
So do you think it's as part of inherent hatred?
Sorry, Fina?
Do you think that the whole thing happening now has an inherent hatred on the line regard this call for Igbos must go? Because some Igbos have the opinion that if you happen to be, you know, in the Southeast, that people are waving this flag and, you know, calling for Russia to come and all that, it should have actually taken the turn it is. So do you actually perceive this to be more like an underlying hatred for
No, Fina, I'll reduce it to two things. One, there is a clear conspiracy by the Nigerian state against the Southeast. We can debate for as long as we like. Anybody can continue to live in self-denial. But there is a clear state conspiracy against the Southeast to push them out of the commanding heights of the economy, to push them out of politics. That is one. Two, it is not outrightly the hate against the Igbos. It has to do with the sociological underpinning of the West, or Lagos, so to say, being more cosmopolitan. You know, it happens in all cosmopolitan cities. Like I did give an example the other day. In Abia State, Aba is more like a cosmopolitan city in Abia State. You have people from all subgroups converge in Aba and do business. Now, the indigenes somehow don't measure up with the success of the foreigners or the non-indigenes. So there is this hate about you have come. You know, you have taken our lands, you have built houses, we don't have lands to build on. So that hate is there. It's sociological. You know, it has a sociological underpinning. Not just in Nigeria. That was what happened to the Jews. In the South, in Austria, that was what happened to them in Germany.
So do you see the words of the Onaburi we stand coming up again on the lips of the Igbos, as the case may be, as you wrap up this conversation?
You know, on Onaburi we stand it is a different conversation altogether. If we had stood on Onaburi, the Civil War wouldn't have come in the first place. Right. And see, Fina, as an individual, I believe in the unity of this country. The Igbo man, the Yoruba man, the Hausa man, the Ibibio man is better off in a united Nigeria than in one enclave called the Southeast or the Southwest. See, globally, the world is going global. Look at what is happening in Europe. You have 26 countries put together. It's more like a Europe of states, a state of Europe. It's more like a state of Europe than Europe of states. The only thing they don't have in common is a sovereignty. They have a common currency. They are borderless. You can move. They have the Schengen. You can move through all the countries of EU with one visa. That is where the world is standing to. So we cannot start to balkanize at this level. Nigeria is a huge market that we can take control of after. It's a huge market. At this point, we cannot be talking about breaking. What we are asking for, let us restructure this country so that everybody has a sense of belonging, a sense of being Nigerian. Let us build a Nigerian nation. That is what we are asking for.
All right, thank you very much. That would be a good place to anchor it. Thank you very much for your thoughts there. Let's come back to Olufemi Lawson, our Executive Director, Center for Public Accountability. Let's have your parting shots. Now, do we still have Olufemi Lawson? Well, we'd like for you to unmute your microphone because we cannot hear you.
I said I want to align my thoughts with the parting shot of Mr. Chukwuma, that we have a country to build. We are better off as a people together. It's easier for us to become more prosperous as a people together than getting divided along this ethnic, another sentiment that this, people whip up when unnecessary in most cases. So for me, I think we must invest more in building a nation that is prosperous with the inclusion of everybody. We must not compromise the inclusion of any, especially of the major ethnic groups in this country, if we really want to move forward.
All right then, thank you very much, Olufemi Lawson, who is the Executive Director, Center for Public Accountability, CPA. Thanks for coming on the program.
My pleasure.
All right. Thank you once again, Chukwuma Okoro, for staying with us on the program. We'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll have other segments of the show. We just might be taking your responses from YouTube. So stay with us. We'll be back in a bit.